in every bone.
Lovely. Good evening, Zambia. Good evening, Africa, and warm welcome to the bigger program right here on KBN TV from Zambia's capital city, Lusaka, with me, Innocent Piri. We are in the, of course, countdown of the official campaigns ahead of the 2026 general elections, slated for August 13th this year. I hope and trust that you have your voters' cards in place so that you can also take part. And as far as the voting is concerned, remember that voting, it is one of your rights. We've got 14 presidential candidates on the ballot paper, and among them we've got the ruling United Party for National Development, UPND, with the President Hakainde Hichilema, who has been in power for the last 5 years, and he is actually asking for more votes so that you can be re-elect him and his UPND back into office. And also the Tonse Alliance or NRPUP via Makebi Mundubile is also asking for your votes. But of course, there are other political parties. The Citizens First under President Harry Kalabazwa is on the ballot. Dr. Fred Membe, Socialist Party, is equally on that list. You can talk about Anthony Akim Njovu as well. The Democratic Union is among those contesting this year's elections. Howard Kunda, Zambia Wake Up Party, is also on that particular list. And also Dr. Xavier Chungu as well, who is been behind bars. I should make mention that from the time he filed in the nominations, a week later he was arrested by the Zambia police and has been in police cells for over a month since the campaigns commenced. A very sad story, among others. Now, to dive into some of these, just to understand the manifestos of different political parties, this evening we will take our time to understand what the Tonse Alliance, party or NRPUP party stands for through the Tonse Alliance. Makebi Mundubile and Makebi Zulu. Who are these gentlemen? What do they stand for? We specifically look at the party manifesto a little bit in detail. Of course, we shall incorporate that into other issues. But the main issue which is dominating the media and social media is the economic emancipation, economic transformation. The UPND came into power discussing or talking about economic transformation. How has the UPND performed? That's the biggest question we have for you. But also, what is the Tonse offering in as far as improving the cost of living is concerned? I have in the studio a man who is part of the presidential campaign team, and he's a veteran in as far as governance is concerned and also politics in Zambia is concerned. Honorable Muhabi Lungu, he joins me back again on KBN TV, the bigger program. Honorable, welcome and good evening to you.
Thank you very much, IP, and good evening to all of the viewers. As always, I'm very happy to be here. Today I will try and speak a bit slowly. I've been told that sometimes I speak a bit too fast.
You've been cautioned by
I've
some
been
people.
cautioned by many people that you are very clear, but maybe reduce speed at which you speak. So I want to be very deliberate,
right?
Obviously, because I think that the issues that we're discussing are very important. And as you have said, what I want to be able to do with you, if you will allow me, of course, today, is to be a football player. To be a football player. Right. I'm a team player with others, and so I'm speaking on behalf of others. But also in football, as the World Cup is going, you employ two tactics or several tactics. Right. There is an attack tactic. There is also a defensive posture, and there is when you want to score. And I think that as we evaluate what we want to do for the future, we must also evaluate what our colleagues who have been in government have been doing for the last 5 years. So I want to be able to talk about what they've done and then what we will do. Right. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Honorable, and allow me to appreciate you that each time we invite on you, you are one of those sources we can depend on or rely on at every point. So I thought I could just appreciate you for coming through.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm grateful.
We've got a few days to go. Honorable Muhabi Lungu, ahead of the elections coming up next month. And we're at the point where Zambians and citizens will need to understand why the Tonse Alliance, why Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu, they should be voted in power or into offices by the people of Zambia. Why the noise out there? Why the crowd? For me, from the media side, you may have all those crowds, but the question is, what are you bringing on the table? And I know it is what some of your critics actually are asking you, that yes, you may have the numbers, but are you able to match? Are you able to be compared with the legacy of President Hakainde Hichilema as far as the transforming the economy is concerned? We get into that.
Okay.
The biggest question I have for you this evening is to find out. HH came into power in 2021. First of all, we are speaking about a man who is an economist. A person who assured Zambians that once you vote for me, we are going to ensure that the cost of living is actually dealt with. And for sure, he comes in today. You brag about the debt restructuring he has done. He's talking about also even feeding young people. These are students in schools and of course other places. He'll tell you that we have empowered the vulnerable citizens via the cash for work, as it were, or other initiatives as it were. That's HH for you and the UPND. He also tell you that part of the money which is parents were spending in schools in paying for school fees has been taken away. That money, parents are able to utilize it in some other needs areas. Meaning that you and President Brian Mundubile, you've got a huge task to fit into the shoes of President Hakainde Hichilema in as far as transforming the economy is concerned. What is there for Tonse Alliance?
Well,
and I want us to take a little bit of time just to provide the solutions, because most of the time, I know Zambians, especially now, will not hear much of the critics. As much as, of course, I'll give you time to criticize where you can, but much of the concentration will look at on the solutions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can give a solution, and I will give the solution.
Please.
And in the things that Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu are saying is where the solution is in terms of this issue.
Right.
So the first one is perhaps to look at the differentiation that Honorable Mundubile makes between him and the UPND government as it regards the numbers. Right. Now, I may ask if it's possible whether we can show what Honorable Mundubile said in Nyimba when he was talking about the difference between inflation and people's living standard. When he was talking about reserves as opposed to...
You mean the video which has put you in trouble as Tonse
that is right.
Alliance members? I'll do that. Let me do that just now.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you brought in that earlier. It was part of my scripting here. Let's have this video, directors, for the sake of just balancing the conversation of Brian Mundubile in Nyimba, where he talks about the reserves, and we compare it to the guidance coming from the government, because HH says you want to come and eat the monies in government. You have regrouped to come and eat the money. But HH says, I have the keys.
Yes,
let's have the video.
My dear brother, Hakainde Hichilema, now an uncle. Every day after TV, we have built reserves. We've got reserves for 6 billion. nanakulu mutinta bamakazane misepela asharais ku prison nanayota lafuna yo nambo we munandi wamukupozinga nakupanga ma reserves bantu bafutika bakufana njala daily iwelela kupanga ma reserves under Tonse government, under our government, we will make sure tikali bambo kamba chizungu chitali pa ma reserves tizaona kuti makanso weka zeta bwanji ya fola masibo servants hapa za bwanji debt swap simunga zikamba pa ma reserves musunga ndalama za bantu bafama bakufa pa makiu kufuna ndalama zao bafama polisa milisi simuli pia milisi benango na mabibi lafela pa malai benango waluza manyumba then tomorrow you say you've got reserves awe bane. Now difference ni ma government yama siana is a government ya tu iyangana kwa bantu government ya banza tu ikonda chabe ma figures kukondoleza wazungu endo kama no inflation is low, inflation is 6%, reserves isa tiba na mwana njito hiko gati mungu tika iwe inflation yatu ndimwe inflation yatu isendimwe imwe ngati mwambokana 3 meals a day istaziwa takweza inflation ngati simu kuja 3 times a day mukanywa peleka wana kuskulu 5 phrases singa vikambe bunu vikambapo. We will only celebrate the drop in inflation when you have the 3 meals a day. We are not focused on figures. We have no business with figures. We have business with you, the Zambian people. Our business is you, the Zambian people. My dear brother.
That's a video there, Honorable.
Okay,
you
so
wanted to listen.
I think that this video, which the viewers have just seen, is very fundamental. And as you can see, I requested you to play it because one would think that of all the noise that has been generated by the UPND, that I would be ashamed to see this video. And I want to say that the basic difference between the UPND and us is in that video. The first thing that differentiates us between the UPND is that we are saying that the #1 priority of our governance will be people. What ordinary citizens feel about what we as economic managers are doing. Not about talking about numbers which are unrelated to them. Now, they've created an impression that Brian Mundubile would be a poor economic manager because he doesn't understand the macroeconomic fundamentals. If you look at that video properly, and I've done a transcript, there is nowhere in that video where one, he says that reserves are not good and that we will not keep reserves and that we will just discard them. There is nowhere. Number two, there is nowhere in that video where he says he will spend the reserves to pay teachers, to pay council workers, and so on. It is not there. What he says, and which they are latching on, is on this sentence where he says, Tilibe navo nchito hivo. Okay? Now, they have translated that to say that it is in reference to the reserves. It was not in reference to the reserves. It was not in reference to inflation. What he was saying is that we will not boast of these things before the impact of the economy hits you. So, I think in order for me to just create this justification, let me read what he said.
Please.
Yeah. Under Tonse, government, under our government, we will make sure tikalibe kukamba chizungu chitali pama reserves tizaona kuti ma council workers wafola and ma civil servants pasidwa ma debt swap. Simunga kambe za pama reserves bantu na walibe ndalama. That's what he was saying. Bantu walibe ndalama. Simunga kambe ma reserves mafama simuna lipile. And he goes on to say the difference ni ma government ya siana is a government yatu izayangana pa bantu. Government ya wazatu ima yangana chabe pa ma figures. Kukondwesa wazungu. And what he meant with this is that they are completely satisfied with the figures to the IMF, to the World Bank, etc., and it has no impact on it. Now, they've turned this around to say that he was saying reserves were not important now. I just want to say, my brother, that in economics, there there are several types of indices. One indices is a macroeconomic indicators. But we as economists also recognize that macroeconomic indicators sometimes might not be impactful on the people. So we have other indices like the Living Conditions Monitoring Survey. We have other indices that are contained in the food basket that is done by JET-CTR. We have other indices to do with health, which are in the health demographic survey. Now, all of these go towards explaining that sometimes macroeconomic indicators and indicators which really promote the welfare of people do not always align, that they are mismatched like this. So we do these surveys to be able to ascertain, and you will find that in the majority of cases, these other surveys come up with indices that counter the macroeconomic indicators, which actually show that people are actually suffering. So the economy may show that it is healthy through macroeconomic indicators, but the people who live in the economies themselves are not healthy. So what Brian was saying was that our number one priority will be to ensure that people are being impacted before we start boasting, not before we start spending reserves, before we start boasting. And in conclusion to this, I can say to you that even the ordinary Zambians also read this situation this way. I have always pointed out, and I think that even last time we were here, I had already pointed out to you that in 2011, I was at the ZDA at the time and then quit to stand as a candidate. The macroeconomic indicators under the RB administration were better than they are today. Okay? So if you look at the foreign exchange to the dollar, it was 4 kwacha 88 ngwe, 5 kwacha to the dollar. If you looked at the reserves themselves, for the size of the economy at that time, we had reserves with 4.5 months of cover and sometimes 5 months of cover. If you look at the cost of meal and so on, they were really good. If you look at the growth rates in that year, it was above 7%. In fact, some indicate that it was 7.3. Now, with all of those good indicators, all it took was President Michael Sata to say, I'm going to give you more money in your pocket. Because he understood that no matter how good the indicators are, if people are not feeling it, they don't care about your figures. Okay? And what happened in the contest between RB and Michael Sata? RB lost. With all the good indicators better than now. Okay? So, this is an indication by people to say that if something is not impactful to them, no matter how many times you tell them that inflation is great and so on, they don't care. And that is what Mundubile was saying. Now, in conclusion, let me just say something about inflation, which is, I think, very important. I think everyone knows now that when we are talking about the rate of inflation, we are talking about not prices going down. We're talking about the rate at which prices are going up. Now, if you want to boast, you should boast of deflation. Because deflation is what would indicate to you that prices are actually going down. Not that they are slowing in terms of the pace at which they are increasing. So, deflation would have been, if fuel was at 17 kwacha, it should be now at 15 or 14, as he promised. If the cost of meal was at 125, it should now be 100 or 50, as he promised, and not at 200 and chakut. Okay, in some cases 300. If the exchange rate was at say 18, 19, or 20 to the dollars, it should be now significantly lower, not higher. In this particular case, they've brought it down, I think temporarily. But deflation would be something to boast of, not the rate of inflation, because they brought it up at one point to 16 point something percent, and they've dropped it themselves, but they did bring it down. So I just wanted to say that again, inflation is only really important to people when the prices have actually declined, which is what their promise was, not when prices have stopped increasing by higher margin. I mean, that is not the case.
Yeah, I understand your explanation, Honorable Lungu.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know if it's the nature of politicians, in that during campaigns, you tend to simplify, you know, this economic transformation. You want to pretend, I want to portray yourselves as though once you come into power, everything is going to drastically change within maybe 24 hours or within 30 minutes, hours, or within 1 hour and stuff like that. Yeah, and yet when you come into power, again you begin to tell the viewers, begin to tell the voters that, look, we need a bit of time. And maybe you've misunderstood the UPND, you the critics of the UPND and HH, because you don't understand how far it has taken the UPND and HH to put the fundamentals in place. Yes, and as much as you can advocate that, look, the inflation figures don't matter and stuff like that, because what an ordinary citizen is demanding for is to buy maybe a cost of maybe a bottle of a bottle of cooking oil at maybe 50 kwacha instead of maybe 30 kwacha, instead of maybe 200 kwacha as it were. You can demand for a 50 kwacha bag of meal as they promised, instead of 100 kwacha plus or 200 kwacha plus. You can demand for the reduction in the cost of living. But the UPND and HH, who is an economist, will tell you that, look, when we came into power, the country was not in a stable state. We were in a junky state. So therefore, when we came in, we began to close in the leakages. And as far as the cash flow is concerned, I think we'll not, meander around, not to mention the issue of the empty coffers, as it were. So when the UPND came in, I think they began to put some, fundamentals in place to be where we are today.
Okay.
That's the reason why HH is saying, when you give him another second tenure in office, then maybe these things will begin to be felt.
Yeah, except that in all fairness, that is not what he undertook. When he was campaigning, he didn't say that, give me 5 years to put the fundamentals in place. That's not what he said. And if he had said that to people, perhaps they would have evaluated him correctly as a person who is honest, and they may still have given him the vote. But they gave him the vote on the understanding was that he was going to transform the economy within a very short period of time. His own ways, when we talk about the issue to do with exchange, he talked about 1 day. He didn't even say 5 years. And on a number of other issues. So we have to evaluate him on the basis of what he said. And that is our responsibility. Even the people out there now will evaluate Mundubile and Makebi on the things which they are undertaking. And what I'm saying is that on the basis of what he undertook, of all the core promises that he took, he has not achieved any of them. So he talks about CDF, okay? He talks about social cash transfers. He talks about food for work and disability.
Correct.
Yeah, none of those programs were created by him. Okay, and that is not what he promised. He found those programs already there. Other people had designed them, and what he did is upscale them. And in some of them, it is not an upscaling which is legitimate, like CDF or 40 million. How much money has been spent in terms of all of this? So yes, people shouldn't promise, and we Zambia shouldn't say, oh, because people just say those things when they are campaigning, we should not therefore hold them accountable. It would be wrong, because we will then create a perpetuity in terms of politicians are always lying to the electorate. People must be held accountable, okay? And of the things which he promised, he has not achieved. Now, for us, let me say some of the things that we will do. These issues which you've raised to do with social cash transfer, to do with the CDF, to do with disabilities, we will maintain them. One, because they were not created by UPND. He found them from the previous administration. And secondly, the money in regards to all of these does not belong to the UPND or does not belong to the pocket of the president.
Are you telling me that had they found, as these things been founded by the UPND, you are going to get them get rid of them?
No, that is what I'm saying.
Because you are telling me that we'll maintain them because, first of all, these things were not initiated by the UPND.
Yeah, I
said, assume they were not initiated by the UPND.
Yes, I said...
Cash for work, why are you going to remove them?
Look, you have heard me say on other shows that one of the biggest problems we have in this country is political parties that come and assuming that everything that their predecessors did was wrong.
Correct.
Yeah. And also, that is wrong. Right. Also, the other issue which is very wrong and distasteful is the government coming, found that things were done by their predecessor, and then trying to take credit for what their predecessors do. So you relaunch programs, you relaunch bridges, you relaunch whatever to try and see whether you can delude people that these were yours. So I'm saying that we will keep these because first and foremost, they were not created by them. They were created by other governments. CDF was not even the PF. The PF found it. The social cash transfer. I remember dealing with social cash transfer when I was working at the Ministry of Finance some 20 years ago during the MMD. And each government that comes gives its own stipulation and tries to improve the program. And we will further improve upon this because, as I was saying, from the second perspective, this money which they are boasting about does not belong to the pocket of the UPND nor the president. This is government money, your tax revenue. So those programs will continue. But over and above that, we wish to undertake that we will deal with the issue of the cost of living. Okay? And in dealing with the cost of living, we understand that there are several fundamental issues which you have to look at. Number one issue that deals with the cost of living is if you look at the indices in terms of the things that are most are responsible for the cost of living. Number one is food. Okay? So one of the reasons that we have not been a big success in terms of bringing down the cost of food is because we tend to produce too little in terms of hectarage in Zambia. So instead of producing like what Malawi does, where they are maybe producing 6-7 tons per hectare, we produced maybe 2 to 3. You know, and even though the quantum of what is produced, they are boasting that they produce 5 million. It is at a cost which does not take into consideration the marginal cost. That's what we say in economics. And one of the ways in which to bring down the food of prices is to increase the productivity per hectarage. We have policies in all of these manifestos that will ensure that we increase the per hectarage production of most of the commodities that we're producing in this country, whether it is rice, whether it is maize, whether it is soya gum. It is one of the proposals that are in these manifestos. Okay, that is one. Secondly, the issue that is also responsible for increasing the price of general commodities is the transport network. If you are transporting fuel by road, or instead of by pipeline, or if you are transporting things not by rail, if you have got potholes all over between Lundazi to Chipata in terms of bringing cotton and all those food items, the cost of maintaining the trucks, of paying drivers, and also is reflected in the price. So one of the areas where you look at is you make sure you concentrate in ensuring that you've got effective rail, that you've got roads and bridges and infrastructure, that the transportation of commodities coming out from other countries are cheaper. That is one of the reasons why the previous governments have concentrated on infrastructure, and this particular government has been very poor at infrastructure. That is one. That is two. Number three, I can go to all of them, but I think because of time. Number three, one of the issues that also is a headache to the majority of inhabitants, particularly in the urban areas, is the cost of housing and the rentals for housing. I have two of my domestic workers who live in Baulen, and they have indicated to me that in Baulen, just in the last 4 years, rentals have gone up sometimes double. Okay, there has never been an aggressive approach in this country towards, first of all, urban redevelopment. Okay, housing and urban renewal in many of what we say kukombon, okay, but in the high density areas. Okay, these manifestos that are here have highlighted what we are going to do in terms of urban renewal and upgrading of high density areas. It's a program in there. More than that, we've also said we will create a bank that will ensure that it is targeted towards the expansion of housing units throughout the country, because there's a big shortage. That will reduce the cost of housing. We've also said we will review, and you will see that, the functions of the National Housing Authority, so that and the bank, it is gone from my mind. That lends mortgages, gives so on and so on, so that we can deal with the housing market. So that there are issues where we can now begin to deal with the cost of living. Now, these measures that I've given you are short-term to long-term.
Yeah.
They are also...
sorry, not to cut you short.
Yeah.
I just want to understand one thing. On the banking sector and the banking initiative that you are proposing, when I check through the number of banks we have in this country, you realize that most of these banks are foreign owned, you know. And then here is Muhabi Lungu and the Tonse Alliance trying to aggressively, you know, trying to create initiatives that will be linking their plans into the banks. And then you have no powers. You know, these banks, most of them are owned by the foreigners.
Yeah.
So how do you breach the...
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that you will see that in the manifesto, it talks about the establishment of a local bank, which will be sectoral in nature, meaning that there may be banks that are going to concentrate their firepower in particular sectors, maybe SMEs. And within these manifesto is also the issue to do with ensuring that we zoom in on maybe small scale, small and medium scale, artisanal people who've got the skill, to see whether we can provide credit for them. They're in the manifesto. Right. Okay. And all of
that
these
will be done within how much time?
Yeah, this is what I was saying.
Will it be a 5-year tenure?
Yes.
Will it be a 2-year?
Yeah. Obviously, in economics, and again, as I said before, there is what you would call short-term, medium, and long-term. So some of the programs are long-term, others will be medium to long-term, but there are also short-term programs in order to reduce the cost of living, which can be felt within a period of a year or two. Okay, and there are also areas where you can also provide a subsidy. Okay, in order to be able to cushion some costs within the economy. So that one, as I said, is something that is contained in this manifesto. Now, let me just explain a little about why I'm saying this, okay? Because you might say, oh, but you are saying this. There has been accusation that the Tonse Alliance doesn't have any manifesto. Here is a manifesto of the Tonse Alliance before we had a larger grouping. Here is a manifesto for the Pamosi Alliance before we had a larger grouping. Here is a manifesto for the People's Party. This is the parties that is headed by Copeland, Dr. Sebastian Copeland. Here is a manifesto that belongs to the Zambia We Want, the party that I belong to. There has been an initiative after all of us came together to rationalize all of these and come up with a singular platform. And that is the platform that I'm speaking to. So I'm not inventing. I am picking from the collaborative effort, and Mundubile has assured with the ticket that we are a unit, we are a coalition, and we will be respectful of the objectives of what all of you and all of us want to do. So when we were signing the agreement with the Tonse Alliance, we said to them, we are not asking for any position, but we want certain things in this booklet and what we believe to be considered. And they said, like, for example, which ones? And we itemized the constitution, we itemized the cost of living, we itemized the sovereign wealth fund, and so on. And then they looked at it and said, look, here in our manifesto, we have drafted it a little bit different, but here are the issues which you are also concerned about. So when you look at all of these manifestos, you will find that the themes are very clear about where we want to go as an alliance. One, in terms of economy, we are all saying that we are not owners of our own economy. While we are not saying that we are going to chase away foreigners or that we are going to nationalize, all of us are saying that we need to empower Zambians a little bit more than they have been. Okay? All of us are saying we will deal with the issues of the constitution. So all of these issues that we're dealing with an economic section have been taken care of. Now, let me just conclude on this part by giving a biblical saying, IP. You know, there is a part in the Bible when Jesus heals a lame man. I think it is to do with a hand. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees come over and say to them, don't you know that this is a Sabbath? How can you heal this man on a Sabbath? And Jesus' response to them is to call them hypocrites. He said, you hypocrites. When your donkey falls into the, on a Sunday, you go and take it out. And he mentions others. And then he asks a very fundamental question. He said, was the Sabbath made for man, or was man made for the Sabbath? Okay? And they all agreed that the Sabbath was made for man. Man was not made for the Sabbath. So likewise, when we are dealing with economic parameters and indices, you cannot be so hypocritical and so overzealous and become a Pharisee in just taunting about, oh, first we must do the macroeconomic management and so on, when people are dying. And that is what we're asking, of what value is it? You know? So we have to be practical in these matters, and economics recognizes, okay, that the macroeconomic indicators sometimes are at variance with the real lived experience with people. We are saying cost of living we will deal with, not from the perspective of figures, but from the perspective of actualizing what we think needs to be done on the economy.
When you look at the figures you've given, when you look at the synopsis of your plan on how you intend to reduce the cost of living if elected by the people of Zambia, and you also listen to what the UPND are proposing, and the President Hakainde Hichilema has done in the last 5 years, and he plans to do if he re-elected come August this year. Should all these numbers from your end, that of the UPND, should Zambians subject you people? Should they question you? You know, and how realistic are these numbers?
Yeah, no. I think that is a very valid question you ask, IP. You know that many of us over the course of the last 5 years have been questioning some of the numbers which have been given to us by our colleagues in the UPND. We think that there's been an enormous amount of exaggeration, and sometimes that is why we question them. So I can give you maybe 3 scenarios in order to answer your question. You recall that there was a time that President Hakainde held a press conference, I think it was in 2024, in which he was asking the Zambian people to clap for him, because according to him, the economy had grown at an average of 5.3% over the last 3 years. Unfortunately for him, he included 2021, which was a year for President Lungu, in his calculation. And I had written an article asking them whether this was actually accurate. And if you recall, I had said that according to my findings, that this was not accurate. First of all, there was a mistake of including 2021, which didn't belong to the UPND, but that if you looked at the Bank of Zambia statistics on their portal and compared those statistics with those of Zamstats on their portal, and then cross-reference with what the World Bank statistics were saying and the IMF statistics, you would find that all of those figures were carrying slightly different figures on economic growth, on reserves, on a number of other indices. And I asked them, can you tell us why there is this discrepancy? And also, there was this situation where at the beginning of the year, you gave the impression that the economy will grow by 6%. Then near the end of the year, you said, no, we've revised down the figure. The economy is actually not going to grow by 6, but it will grow by 2.8%. And in each of the years, you had these revisions. And then after we surmount the year, after 3 months earlier, you said we've revised the economy growth for this year to 2.8. Then all of a sudden, you said, no, the economy grew by 5%. So we asked the question, what is which? There has never been an answer. There has never been an explanation. And just quiet. So there is a question there. Secondly, you do recall that when the Central Statistics, Zamstats, was unveiling the census 2022, the first complaint was from Dr. Beani about some of the figures that were contained in the Central Statistics map. And he raised issues with them. When we re-looked at the map, we found that there were many discrepancies. Because there were issues, for example, where they were saying, oh, now a particular language has become the second most widely spoken language in the country. And there is no statistical data to back it, just a statement within. And there were many issues like that. And we asked them, since the census report was launched and issues have been raised by a person within the UPND, we raised this issue. We wrote a letter to the government asking them to explain to us why certain figures were raised. There has never been an answer, a response whatsoever. There is also the issue of targeting with mines. If you hear the UPND speak about the productivity levels of the mines, I can tell you that now we are producing about 800 and something. The way they are portraying that figure is that as if Zambia has never reached 800 before. The target of 1 million, first of all, was an MMD target. And the issue of eventually getting to 3 million was a target made a long time ago. And if you look at the quantum of productivity in the last, say, 10 years, you will find that there are years where if you take the collection of, say, the last 3 years of the PF administration within the COVID area, and you compare it with the last 3 years of the UPND, you will find there was actually greater productivity in those 3 years. And these are not numbers which I'm lying to you about. So the question you ask is a good one. Are we sure that the figures that we are being given are accurate figures? And I think that we need an answer to this. We need an answer to the issue to do with some of the figures that are contained in the census report and some of the claims that are being made. That is not to say we are saying figures are not important, okay? But we have to quantify them, So I think that is also very important. That is why IP, that sometimes concentrating on just figures can be misleading. Dr. Msokotwane, whom I respect a great deal, I respect Dr. Msokotwane a great deal. He was, as I've said before, he was my lecturer at the University of Zambia. I worked with him very closely when he was Secretary to the Treasury. I was the Minister of Finance at the time. And when he was Special Assistant to Dr. Mamwanawasa as his economic advisor, I used to report to him as economic advisor to the government when I was employed by JICA. So I have enormous respect for Dr. Msokotwane. I think he's a good man. But I also do know that Dr. Msokotwane is a monetarist. So his perspective of the way he sees things is really from a monetary point of view. And as they say, to a policeman, everybody looks like a thief. Okay? So, to Doc, and as I said, I have enormous respect for him. His particular forte is monetary economics. And sometimes you could be so caught up in what you believe to be the right thing that you sometimes maybe do not give as much attention to some of the other parameters around you. So he gives the example of a sick patient. He said what Brian Mundubile was saying is like saying to a patient that what do they call him in medicine? The vital signs don't mean anything. Okay, that blood pressure, that when they take your temperature, they take all these tests, in order to ascertain as an indicator of your general health. And I want to say that there are many, many times, even in medicine, where the indicators indicate that the person is healthy, but the person is not healthy. And the person dies. But you say, oh no, but bangafe bwanje kabiri vonse venze bwino che ati muntu a BP enze bwino, but the person is dead. So if a person asks and says, but then there's a problem with it, you can't say, no, you can't. You have to accept that sometimes there is a mismatch between the vital signs and what is truly going on in the body. Sometimes there are internal injuries, which all those indices are unable to detect.
Right.
So that is what
having
we're saying.
rubbish
Okay.
some of the numbers or economic indicators.
No, I'm not
numbers
rubbishing.
of the UPND in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Let's listen to you. I'll shift the question to you so that you do not just punch holes into the UPND campaigns, promises, but also we look at what could be the way forward.
Yeah.
What Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu they are coming to do, if at all they will be voted by the people of Zambia, if at all they will be elected by the Zambian people. Like I mentioned, the biggest elephant again comes back to the cost of living.
Yeah.
What will the people, why should the people in Kwamgubud, for example, vote for Brian Mundubile? Why should the people of Nakonde, why the people of, should the people of Mpika district, Chiturika village vote for Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu? What makes the two gentlemen different from President Hakainde Hichilema and our mother, Madam Mutale Naluma?
Yeah, well, President Hakainde, when he was coming to the president, had absolutely no experience in governance. Both Makebi Zulu as a running mate and Brian Mundubile as the lead of the ticket have had enormous experience in governance, okay? What HH is trying to do is to portray their experience as a negative one. But I want to say that their experience is a positive one. And as I've said already, we have itemized what we're going to do. I've looked at the housing, I've looked at fuel, I've looked at food, and how we can achieve this. Over and beyond that, I can also say energy is also one of those issues which is very critical towards bringing down the cost of living. I think that it is safe to say that the previous administration, for which Mundubile and Makebi were a part of, were able to almost double the generation capacity of energy during the 10 years of the PF. So they found it at 1 point something, they brought it nearly to 3. Okay? And some say is that if we did it, why can't we did it again? So it's possible, and because they were part of that. As I said, our manifesto has been able to highlight this very clearly, and you will see that in the last 5 to 6 weeks, both Brian Mundubile and Makebi will be more aggressive in terms of sharing what the policy framework is from the manifesto. So that is what I can say. We are not just being critical. I think that we are also being progressive. And I think maybe the last thing I can say on this matter is that the other itemization by the UPND government has been to say that Mundubile and Makebi have got no one else surrounding them who can advise them properly. And I want to say to you, here I've talked about Dr. Sebastian Kopulande, who worked with Manawasa and others, and he's a very clever chap. We have been working together. Brian has been working together with former technocrats who were in government, who were in the IMF, who were in at the Commonwealth Secretariat, people who've been at the Ministry of Finance, and they have sat down with them. And so he's got an enormous people like Simbao, like Kapembwe Simbao, and many others, Sakwiwa Scotta in law. So he's got so many technocrats that are around him with a capacity. It is disingenuous to try and portray the ticket as if it's just the ticket without so many other people that are around them. So we will be able to do it, and not all of us are doing this thing for a job, because the accusation, for me, I would like an individual who is concerned about Zambian people and is not concerned about convincing the IMF. Yes, the IMF is important, but my priority should not be at convincing the IMF. It's about the issues here. And we are going to support this. We've been supporting it, and we will continue to do so, whether we are within the armpit of government or not. Yeah.
Right. Let's quickly squeeze in time. We look at the governance perspective as well. When you look at the governance of the PF, where the PF, of course, I'll keep on emphasizing that most of you were part of the Patriotic Front. Most of you are coming from the MMD. And the UPND have been in office for only 5 years at least. So when we begin to compare and contrast the governance approach of now we have now under the UPND of HH and the governance you intend to bring on the table if you be voted by the Zambian people. Where do you stand as Tonse?
Well, there is where we stand, but let me start again, as I was saying, by having maybe bringing light to what has happened. They say that the only clue to what a man can do is what man has done. So the only clue to what a man will do in the future is what a man has done in the past. And in terms of governance, we know what the UPND and President HH has done in the last 5 years. So one, they have gone to every length to obliterate the opposition in the last 5 years. These rallies we are holding, we've only been able to hold them in the last 4 weeks. For the last 4 years and a half, we were not able to do it, while they were campaigning everywhere. Okay? He has been able to ignore constitutional rulings. There was a constitutional ruling on the process of the Bill 7. He ignored it and found every excuse to do what he wanted to do by bringing Bill 7 and the manner in which it was built to try and concentrate power in the hands of the executive. And he succeeded. And he boasts about it, that I did in Mingalato. And some MPs were able to say that I had to vote for them because I was concerned about my family. And people have actually acknowledged that there may have been some monies that were transit in order to ensure that you enshrine your power. He has been able to change the composition of the court by insisting that he does something which all other previous judicial or police committee had resisted, and he changed the court. He has been able to put in Bill 7, a clause in terms of proportional representation, which is not aligned within the parliamentary system, but within the presidency, so that he could get power. So these, in my view, are terrible things that he has done. The police have been weaponized as a tool to keep us in check, the party and its government. They used to say the pigs in the days. All of us, we used to say the pigs. I'm not referring to the cops as being pigs. But they used to say the party and its government, in which the party and its government made sure that the instruments of state were used to beat down the opposition to promote the one-party state. This is what he has done. Now, he has done this when he is going to subject himself to the vote again. And so he's been restrained. My fear is that if he is given a second term, all hell done broke loose now will be his mantra. I believe, this is my belief, that President HH will go for the 50+1, which Edgar gave us. I'm pretty sure that he wants it gone. I believe that he doesn't want a running mate. You can see how he treats his running mate. But the majority of posters for us in Tonse Alliance is of Makebi and Brian and Makebi, because we know that this is a ticket.
How does he treat his running mate?
You look at
for the avoidance of being misunderstood.
In the majority of posters, he's alone. In the majority of posters, he's alone. In the majority, when he is talking about governance, it is just about himself. Okay? The role that the vice president plays is insignificant. He obviously doesn't believe that she's of any value. And that is the sort of philosophy that he has. And
but she's not complaining. Why should you complain on behalf of the vice president if at all she's not complaining?
Because...
And why should the absence of a poster or the face of the vice president on HH's portrait, campaign poster, be an issue to you, the opposition?
Yeah, it's an indicator. Just like they're giving us indicator. The way a person behaves, the little things that we see are like macroeconomic indicators. They give you an indication of what the state of the economy will be. In this particular case, it gives us an indication of what he thinks. I may be wrong, but it is also important to note, IP, that you say she's not complaining. The reasons why the people of Zambia consistently, since Chakut, Manding, have asked for certain things, and one of them was that we should have a running mate, was because we wanted the president to have a chief advisor who's listened to. Because when you have a running mate and you cannot be fired, you are not like other cabinet members that if they tell the president the truth, that you can just be relieved of your duty. So within the military or the navy, there is what they call the captain and the first officer. The vice president is supposed to be the first officer who is your chief advisor. Okay? If you think that the chief advisor is of no relevance, then why have her there? So we are complaining because we want a presidency which is restrained by another who cannot just be bounced around like a ball. Clearly, we have to complain. Okay? So I was saying, these are some of the government issues, and if we had more time, we can go into to all of them. He has created fear in our republic. Okay? He has said, oh, we will get rid of party cadres. Okay? You know, and for a while it appeared that he had done so. Then 2 or 3 years later, we started to discover that no, the absence of violence did not actually mean that there was peace there. And just as they say, the calm before the storm. Just as we get to the elections, how many people have died in these last 2 weeks? These are governance issues. There was a driver in southern province, I forget which place, who was a driver of an independent member. He was found with his throat slit at a campaign center. Okay? There is an incident in Kaputa where people were killed there. They've banned the activity of one political party and left their party. Fred Membe, who is not part of the alliance, and I think has been quite aggressive against the alliance, but I would defend him. He was supposed to hold a rally, I think last week. The UPND went there and made sure they didn't hold, and they beat up some people. I saw him complaining on one of the TV stations. Just on Friday, a poor young man who was repairing a radio had the misfortune of testing the radio by switching it on, and there was a Mundubile Makebi Zulu song playing. They went after him and killed him. Okay? Now, our president goes the whole country complaining about someone who was killed in Kaoma. And forgets that on the opposition side, there was someone who was killed in Northwestern as well, by UPND cadres. And I hope that every stop and every time that he now talks about a person who was killed in Kaoma, he can talk about Mr. Sakala who was killed in Southern Province. He can talk about this young man who was killed in, I think it's in Kanyama. He can talk about all those others that have been killed there. And he should now begin to boast as to what peace he's brought without cadreism. He can talk about Gary Nkombo being beaten by someone who seems to be very close at State House, and absorb himself of that responsibility in there. So for me, in terms of governance, and this is a simple issue, we have made an undertaking as Tonse Alliance that one, we will have a new constitution done to usher in a fourth republic, and that this constitution will be done through consultation and will be unrelated to the electoral process. That is what the alliance has promised. Makebi Zulu, as a running mate to Mundubile, was saying this just 2 days ago at a rally. We have made that. HH had been promising a constitution that was consultative. Instead, he's brought Bill 7, which has made things even worse. And he intends to make them worse by taking away your rights if you give him another chance. We, as the alliance, says we will ensure that there is independence of several institutions, such as the Electoral Commission of Zambia, the Auditor General's office. We will strengthen it, and it's in the manifestos. We will strengthen and make the ACC independent, and we will strengthen and make DEC independent, where they will not be beholden just to the wishes of the presidency. Okay? All of these, and again, it's in the manifesto. If you lift this one here, you will find what I'm saying. So I'm not dreaming. The alliance has indicated that they will ensure that the police and the army are not used as instruments of frightening people and getting engaged in the electoral process.
Are they being abused right now?
Yes, they are being abused.
How?
I mean, clearly, look. The IG has made a number of pronouncements which are distasteful. The IG has made a number of actions which are unfair. For example, the Electoral Commission of Zambia issued a guiding thing about rallies. We were holding a rally in Chipata, and the police went there at Mpezeni Park and stopped it, while allowed the one which was in Kitwe. Just last week, the army commander made a statement which was found to be offensive by many civil society organizations. And many of them condemned them, that we have never had a situation where the army is making statements. The army boss is making statements about the electoral process in this country. And they are not civilian. They're supposed to be concerned about other issues. Why are they getting in themselves? There was never any condemnation from the government until civil society made this condemnation. And then Tabo Kawana went to hold a press conference, and other people made comments, and 30 minutes of ZNBC News was all about trying to defend what the army commander was saying. And so that this is fear. This is trying to stoke fear in people going about their day-to-day campaigning every time. These issues which I have mentioned, my dear brother, if it was a UPND supporter, God forbid. For me, I love everybody, both people in PF, in Tonse, in UPND. It is our right. I have no animosity whatsoever against UPND cadres. If, God forbid, the person who had been killed or injured in Shawama had been a UPND cadre at the clear hands of NRPUP cadres, you would have seen the behavior of the police. The statement will probably not have been coming from the spokesperson, but from the IG himself to tell us what they are going to do. If what happened to Gary in Mazabuka was happening to a UPND being stopped to file, say, in Kaputa, or in the Copper Belt, or in Yimba, you would have seen what the behavior of the police would have been. I mean, we can't have glaring behavioral traits by the institutions of government where there is a clear bias about what they are doing. You know, you can't have a situation like that. And then they expect that all of us should be shaking as if we're children so that we can't say it. It is wrong. This is not the Zambia that we want. This is the Zambia which should be in the past. And this is the Zambia which he, President HH, promised he would fix. They said Bali would fix it. Well, it looks like Bali is fixing us. He's fixing the opposition. And he's fixing the people of Zambia using the police and frightening them with the army commander telling us he will sort us out. You know?
You've made insinuations or very strong allegations that, of course, I'm happy with the fact that you mentioned that these are your personal opinions.
Yeah.
You made the allegations that you have a lot of fears if peradventure HH won the elections. You've listed quite a number of allegations that, number one, you think that HH might get rid of the 50 plus 1. You know, you've also talked about an issue to do with a running mate, that he might further change the constitution to also remove the running mate clause and stuff like that. Now, I'm asking myself that HH, he had an opportunity this year when he was amending the constitution, and the 50 plus 1 was not tampered with. The running mate clause was not also not tampered with. Why do you think this debate should be sustained?
Well,
that HH is a very bad man who would want to remove the 50 plus 1 clause and also the running mate clause.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I've been very specific that this is what I believe.
Yes.
And I believe them very strongly that the target of what he's been doing, and as I said earlier before, you can only determine the behavior of the man in the future to what he's done. I think that everything that he's done and some big issues have got to do with concentrating power in the presidency and concentrating power on him not leaving. So as you know, for example, once he went to a rally in Choma in which he was saying that my behind, to put it, I think he used stronger words, but that my behind is glued to the seat and nobody's going to remove me. What does that mean? My behind is glued to the seat and nobody is going to remove me. Then he says, give me 100% votes, you people of Choma, because if you don't give me, you will come and suffer. I have got the keys to power and I'm going to sit on this throne and nobody is going to remove him. You should make sure that they don't remove you. This is your power. What does he mean by that? I'm giving you just an example as to why. I can give you many examples. And if they arrest me, because I know they watch me, if they arrest me and they take me to court, I'll give the evidence there. So I do believe myself. Now, you asked the question that why didn't he do it? If you remember, there were a lot of other provisions in that initial bill that after people made cries about, that many of the things were removed. And there were indicators in that bill. We can go item by item that this is an indication of creating a prelude and the basis upon, once these things go in, later on we can bring him back in certain areas to make sure that we do it. Now, let me also give another example. Okay, I was MMD. I have said to you several times. Correct. I went to UNIP to defend what we as MMD 1991 wanted to achieve, and one of the issues which I was very sure about, and I remember discussing these matters with some of my colleagues, some of whom had remained in MMD, was that when President Chilua did everything possible to bar KK from standing in the elections, for me and many of us saw it as a prelude. The target was not only Kaunda, to stop Kaunda, but the target was, we knew that if he had succeeded in doing this, that the next layer would be to try and give himself more power so that he could be like Kaunda. Okay? Now, obviously I must give a proviso here. I think Chilua did many, many great things. Okay? I'm looking at a specific issue which for me was concerning to me. I think Chilua did a lot of great things and I honor him. Okay? But over this issue, I was frightened. And working with KK and so on, we went around the world telling the world that the intention here is to change the constitution, not to bar KK, but to give greater power to the president and probably to remove the term limits. We went with KK to the State Department, to Parliament in the United Kingdom, to our friends. There's a video in which I think Thabo Mbeki is talking about this. This was some of the efforts of Kaunda and others because we knew it was coming. When Kaunda was finally banned, it took barely 1.5 years before they were maneuvered towards to do what? To remove the third term limitation. Because you can tell from certain behavioral patterns that the objective of this thing is actually this. And for me, I'm saying it because should he win, I wanted to bring God into this, but I won't, okay? I wanted to use the common say where they said God forbid, but this is not, this is about us. I don't want to bring God to interfere between choosing us. But should he win, which would be very regrettable to me as a person, and I have to say it.
And remember that what you're about to say is being put on record right now.
It is on record.
Okay.
I am saying so because I want to be able to say when those maneuvers will be in full flight, that there were so many of us, including myself, who saw that this was the objective. Okay? I want this thing on record because I am 100% sure that the intention of the UPND, the intention of HH, the intention of some of his supporters is to ensure that he either increases the term limit to 7 years or he abolishes entirely. That is what all of this Bill 7 has been about. That is why a chief can say, I heard a chief in I think it was Shakumbila, who I know very well, that if people wanted to increase the term and the term, why should we not consider it? It's on record. There is a chief in Northwestern who said something similar. There has never been any refutation or denial from State House from UPND. They've just kept quiet. And we know that that's how things begin. So for me, we have an existential threat in terms of governance. I want to assure you, IP, that I have got no personal feelings of hatred towards HH or the UPND. I can see when people are preparing a storm, and I can see the calm before a storm. Mundubile and Makebi can see this. The Tonsi Alliance can see. That is why many of us are saying this existential threat must be stopped now, before it gains traction. Because they are liable to say, if they win, that the people have given us a mandate to change this. Because that's what they're saying. On Bill 7, they were saying, there was a youth function which none of us can remember. There was a women's movement which none of us can remember, who asked us to change the constitution so that we can bring Bill 7. They will say the same, we just had the elections last year and I was given an overwhelming mandate to change it. They will create fictitious people. They will recall all the chiefs and others who are saying, we want Wami. Therefore, I'm glued to the seat and I'm not going anywhere. And there is nothing the rest of us are going to be able to do. We have to stop this thing now. And take it from me. I'm saying, if during the next 5 years, if he wins and they don't make any attempt, I will apologize. I will kneel down and apologize, but I'm pretty sure that they will try.
Zambians will decide on the 13th of August this year. I have in the studio Honorable Muhabi Lungu, who is part of the Makebi Mundubile campaign team. And let's look at the other aspect that, like I mentioned, that we'll try to be as specific as we can in putting all these leaders under the microscope and to examine their leadership in comparison to that of President Hakainde Hichilema. When you look at HH today, you realize that I'm seeing HH who was given the responsibility, for example, to restructure the debt, and he has done it to his credit. Again, when you look at President Hakainde Hichilema, is a man who came into power, and he assured Zambians that when you vote for me, you are voting for your fellow, a common man. I'm a person who's coming from the village. I'm a person who suffered, who struggled. I walked on barefoot when going to school, and here I am wanting to represent you. That is HH for you. And today, from the time HH was elected into office, he tells you and the people of Zambia that he does not get paid. Meaning that he's there to offer nothing but mere service, which is quite, interesting. And some Zambians will tell you that we can't remove such kind of a person. But HH again is a person that, of course, even tells you that for me, I'm not excited. I've got my own home. There's no need for me to shift to go to State House, or because I'm a president, I will live in my own house. And for sure, he has fulfilled all that. I will give you free education, which myself, I benefited through Dr. Kaunda's administration, the UNIP. He has done it again to the young people. How would you compare him to Makebi Mundubile and Honorable Makebi Zulu?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say this, that the people of Zambia did not vote for President HH because he promised them that he won't get a salary. Okay? I want the UPND and President Hichilema to be very clear about this thing. We didn't vote for you because you told us you are not going to get a salary.
He thought of sacrificing.
Yeah, that is him. So he should not put it on us. We employ him. And that is the reason why all the presidents in the world get paid. Most of them get paid. No, in fact, I should say 99.999 whatever get paid. Even Barack Obama was getting paid. Even Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was richer than HH, he was a multi-millionaire. That is the reason why the Kennedy was getting paid, and he came from a family that is wealthy. You cannot use the fact that you have decided to forgo your pay as a basis for which we should vote you back in, because that doesn't mean that you have achieved what you asked us to do. So we are grateful, we honor him, but it's not necessary. The Zambian people have got the capacity to pay. Okay? That is one. Let Let me answer the question about comparisons.
Yeah, correct.
Essentially, leadership and is about style and about the character of a leader. Okay, and all other things might be right. The economic parameters might be right. The social parameters might be right. The money may be there, but if the behavior of the leader is one of cruelty, is one of arrogance, is one of thirst for revenge, very little of this really counts, because you bring division if a president is a tribalist. And I haven't said which one here. I'm just saying if a person is a tribalist, if a person cannot forgive others, and all of these, if those were the issues, then it really doesn't matter. You can destroy a country. Now, let me do a compare and contrast, as you've put it, between the two leaders. Okay. By looking at the traits of a bad leader, usually most of us talk about the traits of a good leader. We forget that there is an opposite of a good leader. Let me just read you some of the traits, in my view, of a bad leader. And I came, I think I anticipated that you were going to ask. Because for me, it's really important that when we are assessing the leadership that we look at these traits. So number one trait of a bad leader is a lack of accountability and shifting blame. I think the Zambian people are able to see which of our leaders lacks accountability. It's never him. It's always those other people that are responsible. I alone, if I was left to my great magnanimity and greatness, I would have done this. But those other people are the ones. Those PF, I am still sorting out their problems. When you said you'd sort it out in 1 year, I'm still sorting out their problem. Or you said, so the whole story is, I'm still debt restructuring. Blame, and blame some more. That is a bad trait of a leader. When you take over governance, it is your responsibility. Don't pass the buck. Okay? Our president is fond of doing this. Number two, macromanaging and lack of trust of others. So when things going wrong, it is always the others. And you want to make sure that every little thing is you doing it. Instead of having monitoring and evaluation in the ministries, you bring the whole PPI unit, whatever, at State House so that you could be monitoring, by yourself. That is not leadership. That is micromanaging. Okay? That here it is, we are campaigning. With Brian Mundubile, you can see so many people who are canvassing for him, endorsing him. HS is campaigning literally alone. Even the vice president has said, half of the times she's being sheepish about what she's saying. The man is alone. And the people that are defending him, maybe is, what's his name? My brother, Pastor Nevas Mumba, and Mao Sampa, who is PF, but he says PF are just crooks and thieves. So a crook and a thief is, because he's the leader of the president of the PF, he says they are crooks and whatever. So it is a crook. And I'm not saying he's a crook, but I'm making an analogy who is defending him. There are several times. What about within the UPND? You can see that many of them are mute. It is because of this. Okay. Third thing, a leader who lacks empathy and emotional intelligence is a bad leader. A leader who lacks empathy and emotional intelligence.
And you think HH lacks all those characteristics?
Yes, and I've got evidence. I'll come just now to it.
All right.
And fourth, leading by fear and not inspiration. A leader who leads by fear. So you allow the army commander to start making statements to make us afraid. You institute the cybersecurity laws to make us afraid. When we criticize you about what you're doing, you say they hate me, so I'm going to sort him out and going to charge him with a hate crime. That is the elements of a bad leader. And these four manifest in two issues which I think are very important. One is arrogance. all of these manifestations, I have always stated, and I'm not pulling it back, of the 7 leaders that we've had in this country, our current president is the most arrogant. You know, he's so arrogant.
President Hakainde Hichilema is the most arrogant.
He is
president.
the most arrogant. And I'm saying this with all respect. He is so arrogant that he is constantly comparing himself with all the other presidents, including Kaunda, for which there should be no comparison between him and Kaunda. But he compares him with Kaunda. And we can say the things that he said. And he likes to say this of all the presidents. He compares himself with Mwanawasa. All have done this one. He wants all of us to think that of the 7 presidents, he's the most accomplished. He's not. I can say to you, the people of Zambia, he's not. It is just arrogance. And his arrogance exudes that nobody else can say something. If he goes to go see at the hospital, he's lecturing at the doctors. When he goes to engineers at ZESCO, he's lecturing at the engineers. You know what I'm saying is true. Okay? When he begins to talk to donors and so on, he knows more than the donors. Okay? That sort of arrogance is a bad trait because it means you are not consultative, you don't listen to others, and you think that you can do it alone and everybody is afraid.
What if we remove the word arrogance to something else?
Like which one?
I don't know, I'm asking you.
No.
Can you remove the word arrogance to a different word?
Self-righteous or self-absorbed or hubris. They're the same. And I'm not being rude because I'm going to be told. I mean, there are people who tell me I'm arrogant. And for me, when people tell me I'm arrogant, I say, why do you think so? Is it because of the way I talk with a lot of force? But I listen to others. And if people think I'm wrong, I can accept when I'm wrong. If people can prove to me that any of the things I've said here is wrong, I will admit. But some people will never apologize for things. They want others to apologize. Number 2, let me see number 2. Because you asked me about comparison.
Yes.
A leader who has an unquenchable thirst for revenge is not a good leader. Okay? So, if the PF injured you, when you get the chance, you will make sure that you injure the PF. If you feel that ECL was unkind to you and he made you suffer 1 or 2, you make sure that you will punish ECL and his family for whatever else you think that they need to be punished with. If Nakachinda said something about you that was, you thought that he didn't respect you properly in a vernacular, you ensure that the system punishes him and he is arrested for a crime for which was not even in the law books, and he rots in jail. Well, I hope he won't rot in jail. I pray for him and I visit him as regularly as possible. But you want to make sure that he feels. So if somebody is not suffering, you are not happy. Your happiness is when you take revenge. If Gary Kombo disagrees with you, you go to the Northwestern province and mention him by name that he was one of those who did not vote for Bill 7 and Makai. So, you know, there is to have this unquenchable appetite and the thirst for revenge is a form of cruelty. I'm just saying it generally, it's a form of cruelty. And you know, if you feel that Bembas and Easterners somehow didn't give enough jobs to Southerners, and if that's what you believe, then the Bembas and Easterners are bad people. And you go to Sikongo or wherever it is to tell them that if you vote for them, you will suffer you.
I don't think he's ever mentioned tribes, the Bembas and Easterners, as it were, as you want to put it. I don't think, I've never heard HH to be specific that Bembas and Easterners who did not give jobs to you people here. The only thing I remember from the head of state was that, I think a few days ago, he was in Skongo, the area you mentioned, where he said, well, you have to vote for me. And here are the reasons why I feel and I want you people to vote us back into offices, because when those individuals were in power, when our colleagues were in power, the people here, you were not being given jobs. That is, he mentioned. Okay. That is on record.
Yeah.
And I always want to have a justification to my questioning during such kind of interviews, and I will play this video so that you can understand.
Yes.
Right. That's what HH mentioned.
Yes.
He was referring to issue of cadreism, where he said each time you traveled to Lusaka, you landed at Intercity bus station, you landed at Kulima Tower or any bus station, you are being attacked, you are being beaten for wearing a UPND Ligaria.
Yes.
Those are things he mentioned. But I understand also from the political side, the issue of, I don't know how we can get rid of the ethnic talks and the tribalism issues. How can we handle, how can we, get rid of this kind of donations? And I'm speaking to the aspect of unity and peace in the country. You know, a few days ago, Honorable Muhabi Lungu, let me say yesterday, we were commemorating Heroes and Unity Day.
Yeah.
And how can we begin to live or to walk the talk as a country? But let me subject you and the viewers to watching this video of President Hakainde Hichilema when he was in Congo and the message he delivered during that rally.
Bamwi bataliga kuzanga batobera ma independent. Amuterere ma independence alya baberegera kuhi aba opposition kutewa bawina baguhiga ku parliament hagainde mwamusala bagamujite impeach uya bagamugwihe bagabike muntu wumbi mutaje ngwano banajo.
I hope you are now clear and the viewers are clear about what he talked about.
Yes, but look, first of all, this is one video, okay? And in this video, he talks about you beating you up as UPND cadres. He has mentioned this thing in several times. Go get the video in which he's addressing people in Choma, where he says something similar like that, okay? Go get the video where he was addressing people in another province. He went to Northwestern province, in which he was saying something similar like that. Now, look, I've never been a tribalist in my life, okay? But I will never shy away from dealing with matters of tribe because they affect all of us. And I love the Tongas, I love people from Northwestern, as I love Easterners and so on. I will not be browbeaten or frightened not to read insinuations when people are making insinuations. When he says in that video, the people from Sikongo were not being given jobs by them, he's meaning who is them? Who is them? Okay? Now, am I not in my right to make an inference that the them is talking about where the people were in government and those people have got an ethnicity and name? When he says and holds a press conference at State House and said that to me, I'm being opposed like no other president in the past because of I'm this special animal, this pariah. There must be an I can feel the touch. I can feel and touch the hatred that is being given to me. What is the insinuation there? That there's some particular reason what I'm not. What insinuation is he making? Really, IP, are we so naive? Are we so uneducated? Are we so blind that we cannot see the insinuations that people are making? I'm making an inference, and if I am called to do some to the police and they ask me, you said this, I'll tell him I was making a conclusion out of an inference. Okay, but I wanted to just conclude on this before I can come to the issue of ethnicity, because there's also something I want to bring about, and the reason why I'm bringing this thing about. You know, when I'm Angoni, by the way, traditionally, name-wise, everything. I speak Tumbuka because we live in Tumbuka, in Tumbuka land, okay? And my mother, of course, is a Tumbuka, but my whole family traditionally is Angoni. And my grandmother, Enala Jere, was from the house of Mbelwa in Malawi. I mean, she was born in 1914 or something like that. My dad was born, of course, here before they come after. My dad was born in Zambia and as I was. But originally, that's where I came. And she has recollections of the stories that they used to share around the campfire about families maybe 2-3 generations before when they were talking about Shaka. And Shaka built an empire. And my grandmother used to say, Chishaka chikawa chigebenga chief. Meaning the stories where we glorify the greatness of Shaka. The people who had a lived experience with Shaka saw him as a person who was cruel and was full of thirst for revenge. So when he thinks that his mother was ill-treated by a member of the family, he went and killed you. And I recall that in one of the movies we watched about Shaka, he goes to the house of Magedam and he kills the boy and he impales him. And the king there says, stop pity Shaka. Your thirst for revenge has already been quenched 1,000,000 times over, Sigid. And I want to say to the president that this thirst for revenge in which he's coming after all of us who have agreed with him, disagreed with him, have given an impression that somehow that we've become enemies of the state, that we are not going to give anybody jobs, and he's making this issue. It's wrong. Stop it. Stop it. And if he doesn't stop it, the people of Zambia must stop him from an electoral point of view. I don't want the people to come and accuse me that I'm instigating. I have never believed in violence in my life. I think that what the president is doing with this matter is wrong. The insinuations he's making are wrong. The inferences he's making are wrong. And we have to ensure that this thing comes to an end. Brian is humble. And I'm calling Brian Mundubile. He's humble. He's consultative. He's simple. He listens to others. And that is the same with Makebi Zulu. The difference in character between Makebi Zulu and Brian Mundubile on one side, together with HH and Banalumangu on the side, is like night and day. It's like night and day, you know? And I think that when we begin to think about choosing a leader, we must choose a leader which respects human beings, respects the intelligence of others, respects the ethnicities of others, respects the capacity of others, not to call them thieves and boys. Those thieves and boys, he has no evidence. Mundubile and Makebi are not in court. He says thieves and boys. Boys for what? Why call you? If his supporters start saying this, and if I am strongly speaking, then he will say those people I hate for they don't respect me. Let me go send the police to go get them. You know, so that is wrong.
Let's conclude on Muhabi Lungu. I'll give you at least maybe 5 minutes or less.
Okay.
I think 4 minutes will be enough. When you look at the campaigns so far, and also your message you are delivering, or you've delivered to the people of Zambia, you know, through Honorable Brian Mundubile, and of course yourselves who are all over trying to canvass for votes, but also on the side of the UPND. The UPND and their supporters already, they seem to be quite confident that this year's election will be very easy, because they have done all they needed to do. They have put in place all they've managed to seal the loopholes here and there. And when they sit down and they begin to calculate, they seem to be, you know, confident and very clear that they will retain the presidency come this year. When you look at the voting pattern, for example, which is some, you know, other analysts have analyzed, I mean, these are facts. UPND is very strong and has been getting quite overwhelming votes when it comes to Southern Province, Northwestern Province, and the Western Province, you know. But since immemorial, since the foundation of the UPND, since the formation of the UPND, but also when it came to 2021, UPND and HH, they got some quite overwhelming votes in Eastern Province. They even managed to secure some parliamentary seats in there. Vote to Kobabewat, UPND has secured also some very good votes in there. And when you ask Frank Tayali, Matambo there, they will tell you that Kobabewat now is a stronghold of the President Akandeshile.
All right.
Where do you stand as Tonsi?
Okay, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to put on screen two things, which are very important. If you can show them for me. There is one, there is an image of two young ladies, attractive young ladies. I think it's meant to attract us, meant for us to see, with a narrative of northern I think southern, northwestern, and western. If you can
which
show
one,
it for
which
me
one
then.
to be specific, so that director can quickly flash on that.
The one I think it's
What?
Mampi and I'm told it's Mampi and Madam Mwanza.
Right.
Yeah, who are doing
Mutale Mwanza.
Mutale Mwanza. I believe that's what I don't know personally, but I'm told when I asked, I said, who are these attractive young ladies? They said these are the ones. But what caught my attention is what the picture is said, and I asked. I said, what is the meaning of this from the UPND? Because they're wearing berets from the UPND, and they are mentioning 3 provinces out of 10, and giving the impression clearly, which is a bit uncomfortable. I mean, we were discussing about tribe.
There is a picture now.
That is right.
Yeah.
Look at that picture carefully. And I asked, I said, what does this mean? And it didn't take more than a day for President HH to say what he said in Sikongo. And so I realized what he was saying. Now, to contrast this, I want you to show another picture. I've brought another picture, which I have already given to our gentleman, which is a bar chart of the voting pattern in 2021. Did I think I sent it to you? Yeah. Show that.
Share with me just now. So
Yeah. Okay. Let me just share with you just now. And I want you, if you have the time, to just flash it on the thing there about the voting pattern in 2021. Let me open it.
Right.
Okay. So if you flash it, I'll explain this to you. So let me just quickly go through
director
that.
can be interchanging those pie chart pictures and also
And the ladies.
Yes.
And because the message is the same.
Yeah.
So look at this pie chart. Eastern Province and Southern Province were roughly the same size in 2021. Okay. In fact, Eastern Province was larger by 114,000 votes. The voter turnout of these two, in Southern Province, 84%. That is 83.8. 83.8. In the Eastern Province, okay, the voter turnout was 63%, a difference of 24%. Okay, a major difference between how people vote in one province as opposed to how people vote in one province. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just making it as an example. Secondly, total votes obtained in the Southern Province, HH got 92%, 91.88% of the voters getting. The votes that Lungu got in the Eastern Province was 54%, okay? Because of the total voter turnout and because of the total votes obtained, the difference between President Lungu and President HH in 2021, HH got 601,000 votes out of registered voters of 700 and Chakut. Lungu got only 300, half, out of the registered voters, which was almost 900,000. Okay, because of total votes obtained and total votes and total people who turned out to vote. This picture of the two young ladies is intended to give a portrayal that the UPND feel that they can win these elections, largely because of just 3 provinces. Okay, that whatever you do in these other provinces where you can speak all you want, we already have 100% turnout. All of these votes are ours. So I wanted to say that in itself is an indication of using ethnicity and regionalism and weaponizing it to ensure that somebody wins an election. So for me, I think that is dangerous. And I brought these bar graphs to be able to indicate to the people of Zambia that if you don't get up on the date of voting, as many of you in the voting blocks where Mundubile is strong, and I'm talking about voting blocks, not ethnicities, in the voting blocks of Muchinga, of Northern, of Luapula, of Eastern Bloc, in the voting blocks of Lusaka and Copperbelt, if you don't raise your voter turnout from 63 to 80%, like in his strongholds, if you don't raise the voter turnout in Lusaka and Copperbelt to about 70 or whatever, they believe that they can use just the 3 provinces to win. And which is not even true. I know that there are many of them.
It's not true, and it's just a belief. I mean, just
But it's
one's opinion, you know, and you can't blame the UPND supporters by if they come up with their own, you know, arithmetics and opinions.
No, there I
Yeah.
disagree with you, IP. I must say, I rarely disagree with you because I think that you're always so nice. But there I have to disagree with you. It is wrong to use and imply that one group of 3 provinces is more important than others, and that because you think that you've got the numbers in 3 provinces, you will not care about others. It is wrong, because the last elections in which he won, he got 31% of the votes in Eastern Province, and he got 30-something% in Northern Province. He got 30-something% in Mchinga Province. Okay, and in those areas there are MPs of UPND in Northern Luapula, and all of those are UPND. In the Southern Province, it has been a de facto one-party state for the last 25 years. The Southern Province has been a de facto one-party state for the last 25 years, to the extent that they don't even want independence to challenge their hegemony there. And you know why they have sustained it? It's not because the people of Southern Province are bad people. I know that the people of Southern Province are good people. It is because a president and his people will go there and weaponize them and tell them that if you vote for them, give them 0. Give me 100%, because if they remove me here, you will suffer. He's on record as saying it. You can bring it here. You will suffer. They will give you now. Am I not able to make an inference? I am. So we will win these elections because we don't care whether we will come in your areas, get your votes. We will not give you our votes where our strongholds is, because we are the king. That sort of campaigning must stop. I'm urging every Zambian,
As we go.
I'm urging every Zambian in Choma, in Kaputa, in Solwezi, in Mongo, in Chipata, in Kasama, on the date of the elections on 13th August, get up and go and vote. We fought independence for us to be able to have a vote. We fought our colleagues, our black colleagues and African Americans in America in 1964 when we were getting independence. They were getting the voting rights and the civil rights legislation in order to empower black people to have a voice and to have a seat at the table. You will only have a seat at the table if you vote. If your friend is going to vote 84% and you are going to vote 60%, you will lose. If your friend in his stronghold is getting 92% and you are giving Brian Mundubile 60%, you will lose. I have to say it very strongly. I'm now speaking as a numbers person. Get up and go and vote on 13th province. So you in Lundazi, you in Mansa, you in Ndola, you in Lusaka. If you want your candidate is Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu, don't stay home. Go and vote so that Mundubile can also get 90% in his stronghold. That is the only way we win.
Honorable Lungu, thank you so much for coming through.
I'm very grateful for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
I will wait for them to come for me. I am ready for them.
All right, so we end the program this evening. You've been watching the bigger program with me, Innocent Period. Of course, I have in the studio Honorable Muhabi Lungu, coming from the Tonse Alliance. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again next week with another episode. Remember, Zambia decides on the 13th August this year. May God bless Zambia. May God bless Mother Africa. Good night.
know that registered voters and patriotic Zambians alike from across the country watch and follow KBN TV as Zambia decides this August for in-depth analysis of political news and information. Stay with KBN TV.